Hi everyone, I finished another chapter in my book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And again, it's by John C. Maxwell. He's a New York Times best-selling author. And I trained to do the speaking with him. So as I'm learning and as I'm doing the chapters, I'm sharing them with others so that other people can also learn. My friend Joe Orak had introduced me to this. We knew each other from high school. And she felt it would help me because I kept getting hurt in this North American culture because it's the exact opposite to how I am, being logical, being focused, looking ahead at what I want to do. And nothing that I wanted to do worked out the way that I wanted. So she suggested to me that I take the training and do the courses, and then I could decide whether I wanted to be a coach, a speaker, or a trainer if I wanted to do that. So that's how I got involved in this. And it has helped me. I've used it in my customer service. I've used it in the volunteering I've done. And today I'm looking at the law of navigation. Anyone can steer the ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. So John Maxwell gives a powerful example of navigating in terms of looking at the Titanic. They had charted their course, they knew where they were going, but they couldn't see far enough ahead to avoid the iceberg that led to thousands of people dying. And that's often what happens if you have a leader that is reckless, because the captain said full speed ahead because he wanted to avoid the bitter cold. But by doing that and then trying to change course midway, he put lives at risk. So too with us, when we are trying to navigate, sometimes we have to slow down and we have to look at what is happening in our environment and how it's going to affect us and the people around us. Because we don't want to be in a situation where so many people end up getting hurt or killed or losing their lives. And that's true of anything. It's true of what's happened now with TD Bank, where they're being fined by the millions because of their LOL culture and making a joke of everything. And it's true of when we lost our jobs, well, at least when I lost my job at Teleperformance. And it wasn't just me that got let go. There were many of us. We had mass layoffs and we got let go. And in the past, what they did was they just found me another role and they let me go in and learn on the job. And this time I didn't have that option. They offered me Scotiabank, but it was working overnight. And because of my health, I had to say no, because my doctor told me, now that you are doing okay, you shouldn't be going back into overnights. And I had gone and done overnights despite knowing that he didn't want me to do it before. But this time I said no. I said no because I know how much I suffer, I know how much I go through, and I couldn't do it. So I told them no. So they laid me off because there were other opportunities, but there were tests that I had to do. And with my background and my skills, I couldn't pass those tests. I'm not a technical person. I'm not somebody you can get 4 answers and they're very similar. And the testing here is different to the testing that we would do if we were doing Cambridge exams or O and A levels. The Americans test differently, and they wouldn't make any exception for me. They wouldn't look for something else for me. So I said, that's fine. My health comes first. Health is wealth. And I accepted the layoff because there was nothing else I could do. But it wasn't my fault that we lost all those jobs, that they took all those jobs away. It wasn't my fault. I didn't do a bad job. And I fought with the recruiter because she said to me, your scores were not that good and you haven't done well on the campaign. I said to her, what are you talking about? I said, did you talk to my supervisors? Did you ask them how many times I won Employee of the Month? Did you find out whether the scores where they were low was because of my performance or because of the company policy? because they don't find out, they don't bother to take the time, and I did very, very well. So I was insulted by that. I said, no, I'm not accepting that. That's not fair to me. You can't go around telling people that I'm not a good worker, I'm not a good performer, my scores were bad, when it's actually the opposite. And I struggled to do that job, to do 3 chats at a time while you're trying to research. You've got this pinging in your ears, back-to-back calls, your emails. We went from having 12 minutes to respond to 10 minutes. It's not an easy job. Sometimes if the client didn't have everything available on their processes, my supervisor used to tell me, you can't stop there, go on the internet and check for what the customer's asking you. So I had to go above and beyond what other people were doing. So that's why I fought with them, and I told them that's not fair. If you're willing to lose me as somebody who's a valued employee, you're willing to lay me off, then that's up to you, because I know I don't deserve it. So that's the law of navigation. Just like we have to decide where we're going and what we want, companies also have to decide where they're going and what they want. And there's another powerful example that he gives here about when there were 2 explorers. One was Norwegian, Ronald Amsden, and he wanted to go to Antarctica and be the first man to reach the North Pole. But when he learned that Robert Peary had beaten him, he changed his goal and he headed off to the other end of the earth. So it depends. Do we want to be the first? Do we want to be the pioneers? Some people do. And we have to navigate. We have to be able to see ahead to what's coming. So for me, my job loss was devastating for me, because most of the time I got to work at home, especially over COVID. So I didn't have to go into the office. I saved on transportation, but I used my own electricity. I paid for that. And so I had costs that the company didn't cover. And it's very hard to get another job, especially in this environment. It's a tough situation that Canada's in, so it's very difficult. And then the second example that he gives is leaders keep emotions from going too far overboard. And that's one of the things I had to do in this customer service job, because I am very sensitive. I am a sensitive woman, and if somebody is crying on the phone, I also start crying. And they told me, you can't do that. You have to stay calm and you have to learn how to navigate. So it was tough for me. But over time, and with the coaching I got and with the skills I developed, I learned how to do it. Was it easy? No, it wasn't easy. And we can draw on those past experiences as we move forward in our next role, where we go next. And John Maxwell says that most of the time leaders are activists, because we are focusing on the future. We know what happened in the past. We draw on those experiences. We learn from them. But we focused on the future. We're focused on how we want things to be in the future as leaders. And we take decisions today to help create that. So, for example, today I went out for my walk. And because I'm at home and I know I don't have a job to go to, I don't have people to talk to, I don't have anyone to socialize with, going out and going for that walk helps me. And also now it's winter. We're going into winter, so it's easier to put on weight. If you're not exercising, you're not going out. So I know I have to make a conscious effort to go out, to talk to people, even if it's just going into a store and greeting someone, asking them about their products, what they do, what their services are that they provide. It gives me an opportunity to go out and to see other people and to exercise. So I had made a commitment to my doctor that I was going to lose the weight, because I was diagnosed as being pre-diabetic. And when I came here from England, I was a lot slimmer than I am. But our foods have a lot of additives in them, and they also put corn syrup in a lot of things. And so it's easier to put on the weight if you're not active. And I have lost the weight. I still have to lose more. But I made a commitment that I was going to walk for at least 20 minutes a day. And now I've gone up to an hour a day. So I have to keep that up. I used to go swimming every day, at least for 14 minutes, 14 to 20 minutes every day. I don't like indoor pools. I like outdoor pools. So it's nice to be able to swim in the summer. And I did it even when I didn't feel like doing it. I was disciplined about it, and I want to keep that up because obviously I don't want to become diabetic. I don't want to be somebody landing up using needles because I've had friends who are diabetic. I've had people in my extended family who were diabetic, and I know how hard it is. So I watch what I eat, what I do. I watch my exercising, and anyone who's a migrant can do that. When you come to Canada, you can say, okay, I'm going to do these things now so that I don't have the same problems that Belinda had. And then we examine the conditions before committing. So in the job search and in what we are doing, the same way that employers are valuing us or evaluating us, we are evaluating them. When you come here, nobody's willing to give you any exceptions. Nobody's willing to give you any special treatment. And the priests used to tell me at Regis College, you should ask them. And I used to say, no, I want to do it on my merit. And even if I did ask them, they told me, we're not making any exception for you. So in the 22 years I've been here, I've never had any exceptions made for me. I've never been given any special treatment. I never had any investment in me by way of giving me money to invest in training for my HR or doing something. I haven't had that. And Regis College was good in that way in terms of guiding me. But there's no support coming from the church. The church is not pushing the banks and the employers to say that somebody like me should be given special treatment, or I should have Good Friday off or have Sundays off so I can go to church. And I tell them, I tell my parish priest and I tell the deacon and everybody when they don't give me the religious holidays off. They don't do anything to help us. So I just work. I just do whatever I can. And then I get blasted from people saying, you should go to church. Why don't you go to church? Why don't you take that day off? Well, if I ask for the day off and they refuse to give it, even for religious accommodation, then what am I supposed to do? Lose my job? It's not as easy as people in Africa think it is here. Because they'll just fire you. They'll just tell you, well, if you don't want to work on Good Friday, just go. We'll get somebody else to replace you. And I've encountered similar situations in Africa as well. I've also had family members who had to go to work at the weekends or work on religious holidays because there were no other jobs available. So now I tell people, when they tell me off, I tell them off. I say, well, you feel like this, but this is the reality. If you're not sending me money, if you're not paying for my rent, my food, my bills, then please navigate your own life and leave me alone and leave my family alone because you are not here and you are not helping me. It's easy to talk and to lecture me and tell me how I'm not a good Catholic and how I should go to church and how I need psychiatric care because I'm not living the way you think I should live. But there are always exceptions made in the church. There's always accommodation if you can't go, because not all of us can get those holidays off. And then I touched on this already. Navigators balance both faith and fact, because that's what we have to do. It's no use coming down on me and saying, oh yeah, you are not a good example. Oh, look at you, you can't hold a job. You haven't been in my shoes and you haven't had to do what I've had to do. So there's a balance that I have to keep, and I have to do what I can to make my life work, because it's not anybody else's life, and any migrant coming in here will have to make those same decisions, because this is not a Catholic country. Not everybody gets Good Friday off and Easter off and all those holidays. So you have to learn how to navigate. At the beginning it was hard for me, but I did learn. And also with the pandemic, I had to learn to navigate, because when I joined John Maxwell, I was given certain discounts and privileges, because I planned to go to the conference in Florida, and then we had the pandemic hit. So I couldn't use those, and I did my courses slowly over 3 years. So by the time I got to the end of that, those codes had expired, but I had to negotiate with them and ask them, look, can you please apply those codes for me so I can use them to take the courses online? And they were very nice. They did it for me and they helped me. But not all organizations are willing to do that. Some of them say, well, your code is expired now. It's expired. It's too late. And we have to move forward with that as well. So it's very different here when you come here. There's a lot that we have to learn. There's a lot that we have to navigate. Some of it is very hard for people like me to understand. Because if I'm coming from the third world and you're making it so hard for me to integrate into your country, what more do you want me to do? If you go and look at my LinkedIn profile, I listed all the organizations I volunteered with. All of them, because there's so many of them. So I don't know what else they want me to do to get a job, really and truly. Because they say, oh, you don't have management experience. But I had management experience in the UK and in Africa, so they wouldn't consider that to let me into Rotman. I had to push for it, and then the dean said, okay, I've evaluated this and you can come in and do the course. I didn't get any special treatment from Rotman. They sent the binders, I had to study and I had to negotiate, and I passed. The same way that people who are born in this country, who have education from Canada, who are working in consulting, I competed with them and I passed everything in HR. Did it land me a job in HR? No, it didn't. They laid me off at TD. So that's another thing, we have to be prepared, because if we let those disappointments get to us, we won't get anywhere in this life. We have to keep persevering and we have to keep moving forward with what we want to do. We have to do our homework. Like I had mentioned before I came here to Canada, I found out what I had to do to get my HR certifications, to get the training, where I needed to go, who I needed to talk to. So the same way with any company, when you're job hunting or you're looking, you have to find out what is their vision, what are they looking for, how will they treat you when you get there. Before I took this job at Teleperformance, I was applying to some of the liquor stores, and they used to tell me, oh, we want you to come and we want you to finish at 2 a.m. And I said to them, I can't do that. I'm a woman living on my own. I'm not comfortable with it. So they wouldn't hire me. Or they tell me, we're going to hire you, but you have to work overnight and work alone in the store and load the bottles on the shelf. I said, by myself. You're not going to put anybody there with me. They said, no. I said, well, I'm not willing to do that. So you also have to look out for your own safety and look at your own limitations and then decide what you want to do, because nobody's going to protect you here. Nobody. And then also you have to look which way do you lean, toward faith or the facts. If you can balance the two, that's the ideal. But in the law of navigation, we do have to have faith, because there's a lot of unknowns. Everything changes all the time. And we can look at the facts, but we can also build a bridge to nowhere. There's that famous bridge that they built It was a bridge that they built somewhere, I think it was in South America. And then they had tremendous storms, and that bridge was left useless. They spent millions on it. So we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but we can keep moving forward. We can keep focused on our goals, and we can keep focused on where we want to be. But everything changes. I saw a video on X, what was Twitter, and it was very sad. It was, I think it was a doctor that filmed it, because you could see the stethoscope on the dashboard. And this young black guy had gotten, the police pulled him out of a truck, and they were talking to him, and then he was pointing at his foot, and they filmed him shooting his foot, and they put it on Twitter in Mozambique. So you think that those things don't happen. It happened. We saw it in Zimbabwe growing up. We saw our people being attacked with German shepherds. We saw our fathers being taken off to the police station. And then you come here and they tell you we're not making any exception for you. How do you think we feel? I did it anyway because I was determined. I was determined to say, oh, you're not making exception for me? I'm going to prove it anyway. Because screw you. I'm just as good as you. That was my attitude, and I did it. Because I wanted to show them that I could also do it. You have to choose.